Okay, so this video is going to be about the AC method of factoring. Specifically though, because we use it within the AC method, we're going to start out with talking about factoring by grouping. Okay, so if we start out with a polynomial of 5w cubed minus 7w squared plus 35w minus 49. So, we don't like it because it's 4 terms and it's not just a quadratic, so that makes it different to factor. Not more difficult, just different, okay? So we're going to look and try to factor this by splitting it in half, basically, into 2 pieces. So first try, split it down the middle, right how they've given it to us. And look at these first 2 terms, what do they have in common? Look at the numbers, well, 5 and 7, nothing in common. W cubed, W squared, we can factor out a W squared, right? Because that's the least amount that both of them have. So then what's left? Well, taking out 5W squared leaves the first term with 5W, last term with minus 7. Now let's look at the second set of 2. 35w minus 49. Well, this is 7s, right? 49 is 7 times 7. 35 is 5 times 7. So that means we can factor 7 out. So let's factor the 7 out. It's a plus because we're not changing the signs, we're just pulling out a 7. 35 divided by 7 is 5w minus 49 take away 7 is 7. Well, look at that, right? Our factor groups are the same. So what we do now is we take that group out of both of them. So out of this term, we're left with w squared. Out of this term, we're left with plus 7. That is the factorization of that quadnomial, polynomial, 4 terms. Okay, so if it didn't work though, if these 2 groups were different, we would have had to rearrange and picked a different grouping, okay? So we'll do one like that now. Okay, let's say we have 8u to the 6th plus 20u to the 4th plus 6u squared plus 15. All right, so if we try splitting it down the middle again, let's see if it works. Okay, so between 8 and 20, what do they have in common? Well, they both have a 4 in common, right? That leaves this one with a 5. And there's no 5s in 8. So that's as much as we can take out number-wise of these is a 4. U to the 6th, U to the 4th, well, take out 4 U's. So what do we have left? 8, take out 4, leaves us with 2. U to the 6th, take out 4, leaves us with 2. So repeat there. Then 20, take out 4, leaves us with 5. U to the 4th, take out 4, no U's. Now let's look at this second group. 6 and 15, well, they don't have a 2 in common, right? Just a 3. So take out plus 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. We didn't take out any U's because this one didn't have any. 15, take out 3 is 5. Oh, well, actually it worked again, right? Right down the middle worked. 2u squared plus 5, 2u squared plus 5. We can just pull that out again. And what we have left from each term is 4u to the 4th and plus 3. Okay, so that's another grouping. Let's see then. One more example of this method. Okay, 4rm minus 7r plus 4pm minus 7p. Okay, so notice here that this one only has a P and this one has a P. Generally, right, because those are the only two terms that have P's, we want to group those together. If we look at here again, R and R, that's another good grouping, okay? So that tells us that we want to put those two together. So again, to break it down the middle. It will not always be just down the middle. Sometimes you'll need to switch the middle terms to say, if this one had the R and this one had the P, well then they need to switch, okay? All right, so if we look at this, well, R and R is the only thing they have in common, right? So we take an R out, what do we have left? 4M minus 7, okay? These two only have a P in common, so plus P. 4M minus 7. Again, right, they have the 4n minus 7 group in common. So each term is left with R plus P. And that's our factorization by grouping. Okay, so we did all this so that we could do the AC method of factoring trinomials, okay? Now, this can be done with a leading coefficient of 1 or not 1. Okay, so it doesn't truly matter. It's, to me, I think it's a little bit easier to not use the AC method when you have a leading coefficient of 1. There's another video on trial and error method is what they call it, all right? But this video will just do the AC method. Okay, so if we have 5x squared plus 12x minus 9. So, AC method says that we take the number from the first term and the number from the last term and multiply them, okay? So 5 and negative 9, you do keep the sign. So 5 and negative 9 make negative 45. Now, we want to look at factors of negative 45. We'll worry about the sign in a minute, okay? But we want to look at factors of negative 45 that make 12. Okay, so let's just come up with the factors first. We want a full list, so we'll always start with 1 and 45, and then kind of make the 1 go through all of the different options. So 2 is not an option. 3, however, is. 3 goes into 45 15 times. 4 isn't, because 2 wasn't. 5 is, we know, 5 and 9. 6 is not because 2 isn't. 7 is not because 7 goes into 49. And then 8 can't because it doesn't have a pair. And it goes into 40. So these are our factors. That's our complete list. Okay, we've kind of see how we've met in the middle there almost. So now we want to look for a combination of these that, because it's a negative, gives a difference of 12, okay? Meaning the only way to get a multiplication negative, right, is if one of the things is negative, all right? Meaning one of these is going to be negative, one is positive. So we want a difference, okay? So last term, we'll kind of sum it up in a way. So last term sign, if it's positive, you're looking for a sum of the numbers, and both are the same sign. So because multiplication to get positive is either plus plus or minus minus, okay? So they have the same sign. If the last term is negative, that means that you're looking for a subtraction, not a sum anymore. And both are different signs. Okay, because again, multiplication to get a negative, one's positive, one's negative. So the only way to combine those numbers, right, is if you get a difference of them. So we want a difference of 12. Well, 1 and 45 does not work. 3 and 15 does work, right? 5 and 9 does not work. Okay, because remember we're looking for a difference. So we need to end up with positive 12. Factoring by the AC method means we're going to turn this into a factor by grouping. Okay, we're going to rewrite 12 as a combination of 3 and 15. So we have 5x squared from the first term. Then we have plus 15x minus 3x. Does that make sense? Because we want 12, so we had to use 15x, but we took away 3 to get back to 12. Okay, we're just writing 12 in a kind of weird way. So then carry down the minus 9 as well. Now, is this the correct order of the groups? Well, 5 and 15 have something in common. 3 and 9 have something in common. Okay, if you put them in the wrong order, no big deal, just switch it, right? Make sure the signs stay with the correct term. So we split it down the middle. 5x squared and 15x have a 5x in common. So we're left with x plus 3. Now, this one's a little weird. We didn't have a grouping like this one. These have a negative and a 3 in common. We're going to factor out the negative 3 because we're going to cheat a little bit and see that this group is all positive. So we want this group to be all positive, the parentheses group. So factoring out negative 3 changes this to just x and this to plus 3. Now our group is the same, okay? If you notice, you didn't factor out the negative, and then we have negative, negative, but it's almost exactly the same other than the signs, well then you can just factor that negative out, okay? It doesn't matter if you see it all at once, just that in the end, these two groups are the same. Okay, so x plus 3, and we're left with 5x and minus 3. Okay, that is the AC method, all right? So we multiply A and C to get this. We list its factors. We think about, is it a plus or minus? So if we want to look for a sum, or if we want to look for a difference or subtraction, right? It was negative, so we looked at for subtraction to get the middle term. It's all about getting that middle term. That's the hardest part. We can get 5x squared and negative 9, no big deal. But having a combination of them to get 12x, that's what makes it difficult, okay? So if you want to, you can also check this, just checking, right, by FOIL. So first would give us 5x squared. Outer would give us negative 3x. Inner would give us plus 15x. Last, minus 9. See how we got back to exactly the grouping one? And then you combine 15x minus 3x is 12x. Okay, we did it correctly then, right? Because we FOILed it back out to get what we started with. That's always a very simple, easy check now that we know FOIL. All right, so that is the AC method.